We're getting a ton of awesome games in 2025, but 2024, of course, saw many release as well and flop big time. And I think it's interesting to look at the games that flopped in 2024 to see what we should not repeat in 2025 and what we can kind of learn, or what the developers and publishers can learn from the games that flopped. And then I want to look at the most popular games of 2024, and we kind of see a trend. It's very interesting. So let's move to the game number 1 that flopped in 2024. And yeah, it's a game you maybe already forgot about. Hellblade 2. It kind of came and went. It was the first game Microsoft announced with the Xbox Series X. Of course, the first game was huge. But yeah, this is crazy. So it launched in the US. It ranked 37th in the month it came out. 37th. That is insane. That's not good. Obviously, it launched on Game Pass as well. Let's see. In terms of engagement, it ranked on the 21st place. But really, this game was a huge flop. And this should have been a Game of the Year contender. The first game was. For the amount of time they spent on it, the budget probably wasn't pretty. It's not great. I think it's gonna come to PS5 in 2025 because that might save it. I mean, the first game was a PS5 exclusive when it came out, or PS4 exclusive. So it was always kind of weird, this situation. But yeah, you also had to have played the first game to kind of understand what was going on. Otherwise, you would go in blind, and probably not a lot of people did. Still, of course, I know people loved it. Not really my thing. I prefer, there's not a lot, I want more combat gameplay, and the puzzles on the first game did not really appeal to me. Did not work out, Hellblade 2. Another game that you might not know about that actually came out is an Alone in the Dark. And yeah, we're looking at the reveal trailer here. Horror games are doing pretty well. Dead Space Remake, Silent Hill 2, of course, Resident Evil keeps on doing great. But this game, yeah, it just wasn't it. It wasn't it. If we go to the Metacritic, we see that it's 63. It's not good enough anymore. And yeah, Alone in the Dark, dev, pieces, lace of staff following the Revival's release. Basically, it did not sell well. Embracer was not happy with it. So the studio, yeah, it did not work out for them. Alone in the Dark. If the Silent Hill 2 remake was not great, it would not have sold as much as it did. I think it sold more than 1 million. But it was surprisingly good. This had to be on that level. Otherwise, you just can't make it anymore. And now we go to the string of games that you are likely immediately thinking of when you think flops of 2024. Maybe not this game in particular, Foamstars. Square Enix was like, we can do Splatoon 2, but on PlayStation and Xbox. And they even had the PS Plus launch going for it. But yeah, it just didn't work out for them. There was no audience for this type of game. And yeah, that just shows you, just like with all the other live service games we saw, it's oversaturated. To be fair though, I think Skull and Bones' problem was, of course, the fact that they were just making a game that nobody wanted. And yeah, I still remember when this game came out and I was streaming it, people, they were like, oh, Ubisoft's making another pirate game, I love Black Flag. And then they just stripped out all the things that made Black Flag great, and they just focused on the naval combat and very, very boring activities. And now you see some very cool highlights and stuff, but to get to this monster and to fight it and to beat it, you had to do some horrible tasks. There were no real good story. The AI, the NPCs were very, very bad. They were all robotic. And yeah, they are doing a year 2, so there is enough of an audience to have it make sense for them. But obviously, Skull and Bones. This was not a surprise, though. But yeah, it, of course, did not work out. Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest flop, of course, of the year. It only lasted for 12 days. Concord. And another, another live service game where Nobody wanted this. Like, that's kind of the whole thing that we're now seeing with the amount of, like, options there are. The moment you have to convince people that your game is great, but they are not really getting a sense of, oh, I want to play it by just looking at it, it's already hard to make people care for it. And obviously, I remember watching this trailer, and you're always looking at, okay, but why? What makes this different from other shooters? And they had like the equipment, like that you could like put, and then it would stay in between levels, and that was kind of like here you see like a healing pad or something. So that was kind of like their unique feature. Of course, later we learned it had like special it was like way too complicated for people to make sense of it. They had an open beta free for everyone, and people still could not care. But it was mostly just look at these characters. It was just not appealing at all. So yeah, not a great, or like not a surprise that this did not work. And then we also learned that it cost them more than 200 million. I mean, Sony spent more than 200 million, but the game probably cost way more because it was first in development under a different company. Another game that we kind of knew from the start, similar to Skull and Bones, it was not going to work out, was of course Suicide Squad. Now, if you're watching this and have a PS Plus subscription, you can play the game. It's an essential. I don't think we've ever seen a AAA game of a budget like this, because you can look at it and you can be like, what the heck, why this was like not great. But you can't argue the fact that they spent hundreds of millions on this game. So the fact that it comes to PS Plus not even a year after launch tells you a lot. Obviously, they're stopping content. It's not a surprise that this game flopped big time, but it's another where they kind of think we had to do this, and they constantly had to convince people that this is cool, that all these characters have guns instead of just throwing the boomerang like Captain Boomerang should. Where to start with this game, obviously. But I think overall the trend that we're seeing right now with the games that I've talked about here is that the moment, again, you have to convince people to care about it, that's the moment you've already lost. It was with Skull and Bones. Yeah, it's a pirate game. It's, what the heck, it's only naval combat. No, but blah, blah, blah. Concord, yeah, we're great hero shooters, like very polished. And you look at it, it's like, no. And with Suicide Squad, I was like, I still think, again, if you have PS Plus, I think it is worth booting it up, trying the campaign. I had fun with the campaign, as you know from my streams that we did around launch. I think some of the boss fights are pretty cool. I liked some of the banter between the characters. I think the cutscenes are very well done. But yeah, obviously, did not work out. And yeah, we can throw in XDefiant here as well. That's, of course, another game that we kind of saw. It's another, like, where, okay, but what sets it apart? It's like Call of Duty, but with Ubisoft characters. It's not enough. The moment you have to, again, convince people to like your game, to play it, it just doesn't work. A lot of people tried it, though. They gave it a shot. They wanted it to work. But I also talked about it in my bigger video, and you can watch it by clicking on the screen, or I put a link to it in the video description. But what was just with XDefiant, one of the main reasons is that they were catching up the whole time. One of the features they added is, like, that's their big modes. It's a diffuse, like Counter-Strike. Like, why? I can already play this elsewhere. Why would I care about this? They were adding daily rewards. It was, yeah, and obviously it was another free-to-play game in a crowded market, and we've seen many of those in 2024. It's going to be very interesting to see if we will get more of them in 2025. If you told me last year that Star Wars Outlaws would be on the list for games that flopped, I would have told you, I don't believe it. Of course, we saw this, the first gameplay trailer, and looked cool. We were like, okay, this could be awesome. But yeah, the choices made with this game, again, it's about having to convince people that they should like an open world Star Wars game, while there are so many cool options that they could have gone with. Like, if they made a Mandalorian open world game, I think that would have sold itself. Even if the game wasn't like that great, and Outlaws is not bad. It's like a 7.5. I think a 7.5 Mandalorian game would sell way better because people just want to be Mando. They want to be on that adventure and they want to just shoot people and like have a game like that. But this scoundrel fantasy where this character that you're, I don't know. And the world, the amount of like effort they put in this game, and you see it in the design and in the things that like the technical, it's like one of the best looking games. And they have so many things going on. I loved going to a planet for the first time and seeing the environments there. But it was also a story that I already forgot. And it was very playbook. It was very, go recruit these people and then you're gonna do a big thing at the end. We've seen that before. And people just want something new. They want to play something new, and they want to play a character that they want to play. And yeah, this character that only has a blaster that can't even carry other guns around. You have this big open world where you don't even have like rewarding things to find because all you can find are new outfits. And that's if you're lucky. There are not a lot of outfits to find. Space combat was there, but it was more like a checklist. Hey, we have it in the game. There was nothing really exciting going on in space. I love the DLC. If you have the season pass, if you bought the gold edition and have not played the first DLC, I would say get it. That really shows that this could have worked. But yeah, again, they had to convince people to get into this game. And then we learned that it sold 1 million copies in just 1 month since it launched. That's insanely bad for a game like this. Maybe it already sold 2 million. The Steam launch wasn't successful either. The relaunch they had planned for the end of the year wasn't successful. Again, I think this game will come to Game Pass, PS Plus. People will be like, whoa, this is actually pretty good. But how could you fumble a game like this? It's still wild to me. Another game, and then we go back to kind of the hellblade, I think, problem. And that's what we will see when we look at all the games that are the most successful. Is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, of course, this was not a flop in terms of quality. And you could argue some of the other games I mentioned weren't in particular really bad. But I do think this game is huge in terms of like people should be running out to buy this, but they did not. And I think I have an article here as well. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth falls short of sales expectations. And if you think about it, that's not weird. Because why would you, if you have not finished the remake part 1, get remake part 2? It's like a continuation. You are missing out if you have not played the first game. And already having that barrier to entry, you're launching only on PS5, while the first game came on PS4. So you're already losing some people that have not moved over yet. Then, for people that want to jump in, it's like a hard sell. It's like, okay, so it's the remake of part of an old Final Fantasy that I did not play. And it's the second part of that remake. You're making things super complicated, of course. And that's why, while this is one of the best games I played last year, it's I think number 2. With, of course, Wukong then number 1. This should have been a PlayStation 5 system seller. Back in the day, Final Fantasy would have been. But Square Enix is just not able to get new people to care. And the group of people that do care gets smaller and smaller. People that have played it love it. And I get why. It's amazing. But it was a flop. I think it was a flop. It should have been way more. Looking at the production value in this game, the amount of content, the sheer quality, it should have been way more. And yeah, that brings me kind of to this. So yeah, we've talked about some games, and I think it's interesting to kind of look at those games that just didn't do well in 2024. If I missed any, let me know in the comments, of course. But I think, so we had Hellblade and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And one of, I think, the core issues there was, if you did not play the first game, you were already kind of like, not. It's like starting season 2 of a TV show without watching season 1. I know there are crazy people out there that do that, and I'm like, what the heck? especially because watching the first season of a TV show easier, costs less time than playing through a whole game, and it's usually on the same. Like, I think I would be shocked if there's like a season 2 of a TV show on a streaming service without season 1. I don't think that's possible. Maybe there are, again, comments, chat. But especially in this day and age when there's so much entertainment out there, you don't need any barriers to entry. And if we look at the games here, obviously Dota 2, that's a whole separate thing. We look at Palworld. We look at Wukong. We look at Elden Ring. We look at Helldivers 2, even PUBG, Call of Duty, Apex, Baldur's Gate 3, Space Marine 2, Destiny 2 again, separate. The live service games are kind of separate. But if we look at the platinum games, the best-selling games on Steam, there's no barrier to entry. Palworld, jump in. Even if you have not played Pokemon, it doesn't matter. Wukong, doesn't matter. Elden Ring, obviously, you need to have some knowledge of the FromSoft games. But yeah, you don't need to understand. You don't need to have played Dark Souls or Bloodborne, Sekiro to enjoy the game. Helldivers 2 might be called 2 if you have not played Helldivers 1. Doesn't matter. Same with Call of Duty, obviously. Baldur's Gate, even though it's 3, doesn't matter if you've not played the previous games. Space Marine 2, doesn't matter if you've not played 1. Like, you really see that the games that are super successful are ones that have no barrier to entry, that are just easily understandable, and that are cool and offer something new. All those games, the Concord, the Skull and Bones, the other games we talked about here, xdefiant, Star Wars Outlaws, those developers, those publishers had to convince you that it's cool. With a Palworld, you see a freaking, you see the trailer 5 seconds, you see someone hit a freaking Mareep from Pokemon with a gun. You're like, what the heck is this? I want to play it. You see all these freaking Pokemon run around in the base, and they're like mining or like, what the heck is going on? I need to see more. You see Wukong, you're like, what the heck is this Chinese dragon doing? And oh my god, there's a huge bear, and what? You want to play it. You see it, you want to play it. Helldivers 2, explosions. You have immediately the humor in the trailer. You see your friends. Oh, you have friendly fire. Chaos. You see one clip on social. Boom. You're in. You want to play it. Baldur's Gate 3. Word of mouth. And yeah, just hearing the sort of crazy things you can do in the game. You want to play it. Space Marine 2. Big tough guy. Hack and slash. Brain to zero. Just keep going. I know the game has way more depth. It looks awesome when you see it. You want to play it. And it's like kind of easy on one hand. Like, obviously, why would you not make a game that people want to play? But you see it with the flops of 2024. Seemingly, that's hard. And we can go on. Like Sparking Zero, obviously, a running gag on the podcast, of course, with Luke Stevens. But yeah, I get why that game was successful. You see it, you want to play it. You don't need to... Okay, maybe you do need to be like a Dragon Ball fan, but you don't need to have played the previous games. Obviously, I think you can have a good time with this game without being a Dragon Ball fan. Enshrouded, another super popular game. No knowledge needed. Naraka Blakepoint, no knowledge needed. Path of Exile 2, do you need to have played 1? No, you can just jump in. Like, it just keeps going. One's human, another... That's another trend we have, of course, seen. These, like, freaking Korean, Asian developers, they are taking our money because we're all playing those games and spending money on jiggly visuals or physics in Verse Descendant. My point is, they're taking a lot of players away from the Western game developers. We have seen that happen in 2024, and it will only continue. Like, if you look here, of course, Wukong, Palworld, all from Asian developers. Let's see, Dragon Spark Zero, Japanese studio, Naraka Bladepoint, of course, First Descendant, Once Human, all, like, Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, also doing great, Lost Ark, also Asian. These developers are, like, on top of their game, and they know what people want. They make cool games that people want to play, and that put gameplay at the forefront. And that's just what some Western developers have lost sight of. Which is kind of wild. It's crazy that Ghost is in the silver tier. This game sold so well on PC. Ghost is huge. It's so wild to see, like, Tekken 8 here. To be like, hey, is it Final Fantasy? No, it's Tekken 8. Of course, GTA 5 chuggling along here. Why not? Stalker 2, did you need to have to play the first game? No. Just jump in, have fun. So yeah, I hope my point is clear. And I thought it was interesting to kind of go over that. And Dragon Age in the bronze, not great. Also, kind of an issue. Like, they had to convince people that it was cool. And you need to kind of have played the like, it's a continuation of Inquisition. Yeah, barrier to entry is too high. And people kind of peace out. Another one thing to end the video with, which interesting, which wild to me. Monster Hunter Wilds, pun intended by the way, is in the list with top selling games for 2024. It's coming out February 2025. Again, that's insane. That's insane. It's the only game that is not out yet. And it's on the list 3 months before launch. Monster Hunter Wilds is already one of the top selling games of 2024. With pre-orders. It's, by the way, random order. It's not on like regular order. But that's insane. This game is going to be insanely huge. We're not ready. But yeah. Hope you enjoyed that. Of course, subscribe to not miss anything. Leave a like. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And goodbye.